Throughout Philippine history, we have witnessed recurring challenges that continue to shape our very political landscape. From corruption, political dynasties, weak law enforcement, and institutional inefficiencies, and our never-ending questions and fight for the very accountability that we wish for. Yet, despite these challenges, our Filipino society continues to endure and move forward through its resilience. Elections are still held regularly, communities remain, and our very society continues to function and move forward. This raises a very important question. How does our Philippines continue to survive despite its many institutional weaknesses? With that, good day and mabuhay everyone! Welcome to
Tunghay Polsay,
wherein we will be tackling one of the most influential answers to this question from political scholars Patricia Abenales and Donna Amoroso through their framework, Weak State, Strong Society. I am Rex Cortez.
I'm Jan Manuel Flores.
I'm Gian Tasilio.
I am Cedric Laidabilo.
And I am Kelly Rafael Ciabeari. We are students from the UST Department of Political Science.
On the topic of weak state and strong society, it suggests that while formal state institutions may struggle to exercise authority effectively, various social forces such as political families, religious organizations, civil society groups, local communities, and kinship networks exert significant influence over political and social outcomes.
Today, we will not only seek to understand, but to comprehend and to critically discuss not only the weaknesses of the Philippine state, but also the societal forces that continuously shape, support, and sometimes challenge it.
Now, to help us navigate and politically analyze this discussion objectively with accuracy and appropriateness, we are honored to be joined by a distinguished scholar, educator, and public servant. He currently serves as a corporate secretary and compliance officer of the Tourism, Infrastructure, and Enterprise Zone Authority or TIAZA. Prior to this, he served as a court attorney at the Supreme Court of the Philippines under the office of Justice Roberto A. Abad. Apart from his public service, he has dedicated himself to the legal education through teaching in several institutions including University of Santo Tomas, Arellano University, and the University of Perpetual Hope System Delta. He is also the founder of Espaldo Law Learning Center and an MCLA lecturer and a National Bar Reviewer. Our guest speaker is none other than Attorney Al Conrad V. Espaldon. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and for joining us in this academic dialogue.
So, before proceeding, let us first define what a weak state actually means. In Abenales and Amoroso's book, State and Society of the Philippines, a weak state is described as one that fails to collect taxes and control crime. It is in due in part to the state's history captured by sectoral interests.
Siguro great example yun ng mga rural poor na gusto ng land reform.
Yeah, I think that would be a great example when it
Pero
comes to this.
kasi yung mga powerful land elites, ino-oppose nila yun kasi nga, ba't naman nila papayagan? And since the land elites have the power and not the state, syempre, the state feels too. Or at least nade-delay lahat yung pag-serve sa people and pag-promote ng common good. And yeah, power is not held by the state in a weak state, but rather, yun nga, it is held by a small group of elites.
Thank you for that insight. Now, to begin our podcast proper, it may be helpful to first revisit a concept that has remained highly influential in understanding Philippine democracy and political structures.
And I think that very concept, Iman, is during 1988, which is Benedict Anderson famously described the Philippines as what's that called again?
Cacique democracy.
Yeah. And what is a cacique democracy? Right,
So,
parents?
what I know is that a cacique democracy, it's a system where the democratic institutions exist, like the government, the presidency, our government agencies. They exist, yet the political and economic power remains in a group of people, the elites, and the dominant families.
So I think that even though that 3 decades later, many scholars, including us, ayun, nakisama pa, diba? Continue to debate whether this very characterization remains relevant today.
Now, as described by Benedict Anderson in 1988, the Philippines is a cacique democracy. At present, attorney, would you agree with Anderson's characterization of Philippine politics?
yes, no? Decades after the article or the book of Benedict Anderson on and describing the Philippines as a kasika democracy, I agree that we are indeed a kasika democracy wherein we have political institutions, but these political institutions are highly dominated or even to an extent controlled by our elites, our economic and political elites. No, just look at our, for example, our Senate and the House of Representatives. No, in the House of Representatives, around 70 to 80% of its members are members of political elites. They come from political dynasties. If you look at our Senate right now, a lot of them, almost around, if I'm not mistaken, around 10 of them are from dynasties. No, you have the Villars, you have the Cayetanos, you have the Estradas, and you have the Tulfos. No, so it's the Senate, which is composed of 24 senators. Around 8 or 10 of them come from political dynasties. Yes, I agree. We are indeed a kasika democracy. And if you also look at our political parties, no, much of the financiers and those who hold these political parties come from not just political elites but also economic elites. No, they are being funded by the ultra billionaires in our country. No, so again, we have political institutions, but these institutions are highly influenced or even to an extent, as I said a while ago, controlled by our political elites, political dynasties, economic elites. No? And of course, the downside of that is that these politicians do not work for the interests of the people, but they work for the interests of their, for example, their families. So, as you can see, the downside of that is what? They do not serve the interests of the people. They usually serve the interests of their patrons, of their families, and financiers. No? So, at the end of the day, ang talo, taong bayan. Okay.
Once again, thank you, attorney. Kasike? Ang lalim. Totoo, malalim nga yun. Malalim.
Hihirapan ako doon.
Diba? Okay, so this brings us directly to our core argument about Abenales and Amaros's framework.
Yes.
Pero, syempre, let us first discuss what a strong society is.
Wait, ano ba yun? Parang narinig ko na yun.
Strong.
Strong, ibig sabihin ba mamuscle? At
Nag-gym ba yan?
macho ba yung mga society?
Basta malakas.
Okay.
From Abenales and Amaros's book, State and Society in the Philippines are the agencies or groups separate from the state that lack the power to govern, but usually may degree naman of influence over governments.
Siguro it is like for ordinary people like you and
Tayo.
Us, di ba?
Yes.
Sino ba naman tayo?
Di ba tayo
Tama
mga
na.
ano?
Iba na yan, guys.
Aray ko.
Yeah. Alam niyo yun, guys, we as society, we usually call for better governance, like higher wages and better working conditions.
At sino nga naman ayaw ng ganun, di
Di
ba?
ba? Sino magtatrabaho ng hindi maayos? Di ba Dokoro?
Na-mention pa nga.
Na-mention pa ang ating, no? But, alam niyo guys, yung different social forces, nagdideman sila ng iba't ibang approaches eh. Like, para ma-achieve yung mga call na yun. And many social forces have different, and sometimes, if not often, meron silang mga conflicting needs.
Yeah. But if, Clarence, if democracy is sustained not only by our very institutions, but also by the different social forces outside those institutions surrounding them, we also must ask how strong our very institutions truly are.
Okay, so attorney, ready ka na ba? Ito na. Institutions in the Philippines are considered to be weak. But we have a strong society. Would you agree with this statement? Kung oo, why? Or why not?
Yes, I agree, no? That the institutions in the Philippines are considered weak. Why? Because our institutions, as I mentioned a while ago, are controlled by politicians. Whatever these politicians do, for example, whether these are good or bad, they do not survive the politicians once the politicians are out of office. No? Ibig sabihin, yung mga ginagawang magaganda or hindi magaganda ng mga politiko natin, once they leave office, once they're out, their term ends, natatapos din, nawawala. So there's no continuity, there's no sustainability. So that's an indicator that we have weak political systems because ang isang malakas na institution must survive the leaders. No? Leaders come and go, but institutions remain. No? So if you are a good leader, you must be able to strengthen institutions na kahit wala ka na sa pwesto, dapat yung institution would remain and be strong. They survive the leaders. But what's happening in the Philippines? We are more of a, what you call this, leader focus, no, leader centric tayo, that everything nice or the country will only survive if this person will be our leader. Now just look at what's happening right now. Umaasa tayo that the survivability of the country, the development of the country will only rely on one person or one family. Na pag hindi binoto yung taong yan sa susunod na eleksyon, walang mangyayari sa atin. That's the end of it, no? Dapat, hindi ganun yung mindset natin. The mindset is whoever leads us, it could lead to development because we have strong institutions. That these institutions are not, what? Are not controlled, are not influenced by, what you call this? By political elites, political families, etc. No? Just for example, no, as you know, we have, for example, President Duterte now facing cases before the International Criminal Court. Why is that? Because there is or are indications that we have a weak justice system, for example. No? He was never investigated, or yung mga kasama niya they were never investigated. They were not prosecuted. That's why the ICC came into the picture, no? Kasi our systems are heavily rely on our leaders. They heavily rely on who holds the power. Dapat, kahit sino nakaupo sa posisyon, the leaders, the institutions must be able to hold them accountable if need be. Di ba? Hindi ibig sabihin ikaw ang presidente, kaibigan ka ni presidente, senador ka, suportado ka ni presidente, you are exempt from accountability. You get what I mean, no? Dapat the institutions can hold you accountable regardless of who holds office. Hindi yung hahabulin ka lang dahil you are no longer in the good graces of the president. That's again an indication of a weak political system, a weak justice system, no? So, on the other hand, we have a strong society in the sense that our society dictates, for example, what happens on our institutions. Hindi dapat ganon. Institutions, political institutions, must always be independent. They must always be independent regardless of who is in power and regardless of what people say. No? Hindi ibig sabihin na sinabi ng tao, tama yan, right? Because as you know, as you've learned in political science, di ba, there's also what we call tyranny of the majority. Di ba? Na hindi ibig sabihin ito yung kagustuhan ng marami, it's automatic na mabuti yan o maganda. Right? Institutions must be able to perform their mandate regardless of who is in power and regardless of what the people or society say. Pero sa atin nangyayari, pag ito yung gusto ng tao regardless of mali o tama, nasusunod siya kasi takot ang institutions natin sa mga tao. Takot sila sa repercussions, etc. Okay?
So, okay. Medyo okay din naman pala yung mga ganun klase na. Thank you so much, attorney, no? Pero, isa sa mga recurring themes kasi sa discussion natin so far is yung patungkol sa institutional weakness and persistence of political families and yung elite influence sa governance. Like, alam niyo yun, although democratic competition exists, political power often remains concentrated dun sa relatively small number of families na across generations.
You know what? I believe this very phenomenon raises a very important question. Are political dynasties merely a symptom of weak institutions or are they a cause of them?
Oo nga, no?
I think with that in mind, is there a link between the weakness of the Philippine state and the perseverance of the political dynasties in the political scene? Attorney?
Okay. The reason why we have what you call this, the prevalence of political dynasties, no? It's because they highly benefit from it. They heavily benefit from it, no? There is a provision in the Constitution which supposedly bans political dynasties, right? But the problem with that is that that provision in the Constitution is not self-executory. Meaning to say there has first to be a law passed by Congress expressly defining what political dynasty is and what constitutes a political dynasty, which should be prohibited, no? But from the time the 1987 Constitution has been passed and up until now, we don't have an enabling law. Enabling law means a law that will implement that constitutional provision, no? Wala tayo niyan, no? Buti kahit papaano ngayon, and hopefully mag-prosper talaga, may moves na ngayon sa Congress because of the instructions of the President to pass a law banning political dynasties. And hopefully, may pasa nga to at saka it's a law that does not what we call this, that will only legitimize political dynasties. Because one of the criticisms now on those pending bills is that masyadong diluted, masyadong mahina yung bill, no? Dahil sa sobrang diluted, sobrang hina, ang lumalabas, instead of banning political dynasties, it legitimizes political dynasties. And hopefully, hindi mangyari yon, no? So, going back, bakit hindi na ipapasa yung batas? No? Even if the 1987 Constitution, there has to be a law, no? It's because, if you look at the members of Congress, both the House and the Senate, it's controlled or it's composed of political dynasties. Right? As I mentioned a while ago, around 70 to 80% of members of the House are from dynasties. Ganun na rin sa Senado. Right? Around 70 to 80% rin sa kanila ay members of dynasties. So how do you expect them to pass a law that would ban their very existence? That would ban, or that would, what do you call this? That would curtail or limit their income. Diba? Alam naman natin yan, right? A lot of them, a lot of members of dynasties continue to exist. It's because they benefit from it. No? Pag ikaw ay nasa pwesto, aside from power na makukuha mo, you would be also reaping what? Economic benefits. Right? You will be reaping economic benefits from it. Kaya mong lalong palaguin yung mga negosyo mo. Right? Kasi mapoprotektahan mo. No? For example, may pending bill sa Congress na gustong ipagbawal itong kind ng negosyo nito. For example, mining, no? To highly regulate it or ban it. Pero you are engaged in the business of mining. Anong gagawin mo? I will oppose that bill. No? I will talk to my colleagues na wag suportan yung bill para wag maipasa. Kasi otherwise, it could affect my business. Right? So a lot of them join this, join politics. It's to, sad to say, it's not to serve the people. Feeling ko, that's not even the primary reason they join politics. It's to protect their own interests, to protect their business interests, to protect the interests of their families, etc. Kasi if they join politics to really serve the people, matagal na tayong first world country, right? But up until now, we're still a poor country, no? We are still a third world country, a developing country, no? So, ayun. So, I think, andyan yung institutions dapat na magbabawal, but the institutions are held hostage by these political elites, by these dynasties, no? Kasi sabi ng Constitution, gawin niyo to, ipagbawal, but they're not doing it kasi sila yung maapektuhan. Sila yung talo at the end of the day.
Alam mo, tama din talaga sinabi ni Attorney na very insightful talaga yung ano. Pero ano nga ba yung relationship ng mga institutions sa political dynasty?
Alam ni Kuya Rex.
No? Ano?
It really demonstrates how formal institutions and social forces continuously interact with one another. Yet despite recurring political controversies, economic challenges, natural disasters, and governance issues, Philippine society is not somewhat faltered. No, it has not collapsed yet because we're still here.
Yes, and we're not over there.
We are here.
Ang corny na. Okay na, sige. Okay na.
So, tama, ano? Dahil ang bayan ay nandito pa rin. This observation led us to one of the most intriguing aspects of this weak state, a strong society.
Ay, totoo din. Tama yun. Na-observe ko din yun.
No. Despite all the problems plaguing the Philippines, why do you think the Philippine state survives through it all, Attorney?
Paulit na, parang hindi ata narinig ni Attorney.
Sorry. No. Despite all the problems plaguing the Philippines, why do you think that the Philippine state survives through it all?
Okay, so why do I think that despite all the problems that we have, the Philippine state still survives, no? For first, because our elites will not allow it to fail. Because if it fails, kasama sila. You get what I mean? So if the system fails, if the state fails, kasama yung elites na mag-fail. No? So ultimately, silang talo rin sila. So they will not allow it to fail, but they will also not allow it to really prosper. Because if it prospers, if it fully develops, mawawala sila sa picture. If we become a mature democracy, mawawala sila sa picture. So, my view is that they will not allow it to fail because if the state fails, they will also fail. Mawawala sila sa picture. And if it fully develops, mawawala rin sila sa picture. Right? So, hahayaan lang nila yan to stay it in the middle so that they can still fully control it. Okay? So that they can still fully control it. And aside from that, it's because the people will also not allow it. No? Another reason why it's not failing, because there are still people who still sees hope in the country, who still thinks na the Philippines needs another chance, na kailangan ipaglaban pa rin. At marami pa rin naman ganyan, no? Marami tayong nakikitang mga bagong sulpot na mga, what you call this, politiko or statesman who are fighting for the betterment of the country. Okay? So that's another reason why we are still surviving as a state and as a democracy.
Now, listening to the discussion thus far, nakikinig ako ha. A very pattern becomes increasingly clear, crystal clear, that the Philippine experience appears to be shaped by a constant interaction between formal institutions and informal social forces.
Yeah, gets naman.
But when institutions struggle to provide the very services that the society needs, our society needs, the strong society concept steps in.
Anong step in? Pasok lang ganun.
Oo, syempre, strong nga sila. Kaya nila yun.
Ano naman gagawa ko kung mahina lang yun?
When governance becomes ineffective, our civil society, as well as the different organizations and communities, becomes more active. When public trust declines, the people frequently rely on religious groups, local leaders, family networks, and the various groups and organizations available at their disposal.
So, alam nyo guys, in many ways, yung Philippine state, it does not function solely because of the government institutions.
Totoo naman.
Ano yung focus mo? Government lang, di ba? Yung nagka-function din siya because society continuously adapts, nag-compensates, and fills the many gaps in our institutions, and in our case, highlighting how we Filipinos are strong. Strong ba kayo?
Oo. Kailangan na nakakita ng ginagawang swimming pool yung baha.
Yeah,
Ang galing, di ba?
Especially lalo sa usapin ng resiliency.
Yeah. But, sa tingin ko, kailangan natin magbigay, kailangan natin magbigay ng magandang happening or event, just like a case study na strong, that shows the state weakness and the social strength that interacts in real life.
Uy, alam mo, meron ako.
And ano yun, guys?
Alam mo yung sa EDSA People Power Revolution?
Of course. Sino bang hindi
Perfect.
makakalimot
Oh,
mo?
yun ang pinaka-peaceful na revolution sa buong mundo na recorded.
Na meron silang plano afterwards.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, go.
Sa case na yun, society had lost hope sa president and yung mga allegations ng rigging alam mo yung sinirig yung 1986 snap elections?
I remember that snap
It
election.
further deepened public distrust of the Marcos regime. Parang nandiri talaga yung mga tao sa Marcos regime in that time. And yung infamous state partner with distrustful society, naging parte siya ng pag-conspire ng forces ni Marcos against him. Parang kinalaban yun ang sarili niya It plots a coup kung saan naging peaceful revolution siya noong February.
Okay, so ikaw naman, attorney, meron ka bang any case studies o mga nangyari lang or even contemporary events na magpapakita na state weakness and social strength interact in real life?
Okay, the first thing that comes to mind is what happened during EDSA DOS, no? So, you already gave the example of EDSA People Power 1, no? So, I'm giving example of EDSA DOS, no? So, there was a pending impeachment trial against President Estrada, no? But then again, it was aborted because of EDSA DOS, no? That could, I agree with what happened, etc., no? But unfortunately, mas maganda sana kung natuloy yung the impeachment trial of President Estrada, to show to the world that our institutions work, to show to the world that this accountability mechanism provided under the Constitution, which is impeachment, really works, diba? The impeachment trial is an accountability mechanism provided in our Constitution to hold the highest officials of our land accountable, and to be to bring them to face the consequences of their actions, no? But unfortunately, the trial was aborted and we had EDSA 2, no? Which resulted to eventual resignation of President Estrada, diba? The Supreme Court characterized that as what? As constructive resignation of President Estrada. No, President Estrada resigned because of public pressure at that time, di ba? The people are already, throngs of people are already in EDSA demanding for the resignation of Estrada, di ba? Although that's also an exercise of the people's right to protest, to demonstrate, etc., etc., no? But then again, mas maganda sana kung it's the institution itself which acted for the removal of the president, to highlight that our institutions actually work, no? Hindi siya nakadepende sa public demand, public clamor, etc. Because at the end of the day, as we said, we are a government of laws and not of men. Diba? We are a republican state wherein our laws must, at the end of the day, be relevant and govern everyone, no? So ayun. So again, that is an example of a strong society, weak state, no? Mas nangibabaw yung public pressure, public clamor, etc., which resulted to the resignation of President Estrada. Instead, sana yung accountability mechanism provided in our Constitution.
Tama. Kasi syempre, kung merong EDSA 1, may EDSA 1 ba? Kasi merong EDSA 2. Now, moving on, Atty. As political science students, we often spend significant time trying to analyze our very institutions, or even other countries' institutions, the very political behavior that they enact, and the governance structures that we all have. However, understanding politics also carries a big responsibility, and I think Doc Coro already knows that. The lessons we have gained from these educational and factual discussions such as these should ultimately help us become more informed and engaged Filipino citizens.
Yeah, agree naman sa part.
And I think
Totoo yan.
Tong high pulsai will lead to our very final question. Lastly, if society holds significant influence over political outcomes, how can political science students such as ourselves, Tomasian students, and the Filipino citizens promote and enact accountability, informed discourse, and democratic development in the Philippines?
Okay. So as Tomasian Pol-Sci students, no, we should live by the tenets of our university, no? Compassion, commitment, and competence, no? Compassion, commitment, and competence, no? So as Tomasian Pol-Sci students, we have to be compassionate. We have to be empathetic on what the ordinary people are experiencing. Kasi pag na-feel natin, naramdaman natin yung daily struggles nila, that could, ignite our passion, for example, to use our knowledge to fight for the interest of our kababayans, no? Lalo na yung mga ordinaryong mga kababayan natin na walang boses o walang kakayahan na ipaglaban yung kanilang mga karapatan, no? We have the edge kasi tayo yung may nag-aral tungkol dito. We have been we have been given the weapons by our university on how to deal and fight with these kinds of problems, no? Ayan tayo binigyan tayo ng bala ng ating universidad para paano harapin itong mga ganitong klaseng problema ng ating society, no? Bala, hindi ibig sabihin na mamundok tayo, ha? I'm not saying that. Bala, when I say bala, ito yung mga natin, yung yung mga what you call this,
Binibigyan po tayo ng equip.
yeah, like we are being equipped by our university, no? We have been equipped by our university on how to deal with these things, no? Sabi, 'di ba? The university did not just train us or did not mold us in the four corners of our classrooms. Our university also trained us outside of our classrooms, outside the four corners of our classroom, no? So, compassionate, no? Compassion, and we have to be committed, no, in fighting for what? For what we think is right. We have to be committed in fighting for the what we call this, for the needs of our people, especially in fighting for what we think is right, in fighting for the voice of the people who cannot fight for their rights, no? And lastly, competence, no? Kahit pa may compassion, commitment ka, kung wala ka namang competence, hindi mo magagawa itong mga bagay na to, no? So, kaya mag-aral tayong mabuti, no? For us to be able to be properly, what we call this, trained and, as you mentioned a while ago, what we call this, molded by the university for us to be able to face the reality, the outside world, no? So, ayun.
Now, thank you so much for that very insightful and very powerful answer, attorney. But I do have one follow-up question, and that is, are the Filipino people, us, ready to humble ourselves down, especially when it comes to thinking of the welfare of others and the betterment of our nation?
I think naman, oo, marami sa atin who do not think of themselves only, but the welfare of other people, no? Marami sa atin ganyan, no? Pero kung ang tanong is yung mga politiko natin, I do not know. I'm not saying na all our politicians are bad. Marami rin naman politiko na who are statesmen, no? Who prioritize the needs of our people, the welfare of the people. But, yun nga lang, parang mas marami ata yung mga politikong mas gustong protektahan at i-advance yung pangangailangan ng sarili nila at ng kanilang pamilya at ng kanilang mga negosyo, no? So if you ask the question, are we ready? Are the people ready? Yes, the people are ready. Matagal nang ready ang taong bayan. Matagal nang nananawagan ng pagbabago ang taong bayan. Matagal nang nananawagan na ang taong bayan na i-prioritize naman sila, no? So I think the better question is, are our politicians ready to humble themselves and prioritize the welfare of the people? No? So, yeah.
Yes, I think that's the correct question, no, attorney, that we should question not only us, but especially the politicians, na are our politicians ready to humble themselves down, to not think of self-interest or familial interest, but rather for the welfare and betterment of our nation.
Exactly. Kailangan talaga.
Now, as we conclude this discussion, one important insight emerges from our discussion about the weak state, strong society framework. The future of the Philippine democracy depends not only on strengthening institutions, but also on strengthening citizenship. Democratic governance cannot rely solely on laws, constitution, or government agencies. It is also required to inform citizens, active communities, and a society willing to participate in public life.
Yes.
The challenges facing the Philippines today are undoubtedly complex, yet they also remind us that political development is not determined solely by institutions.
Yes, because it is shaped by the collective actions, values, and participations of ordinary citizens. Ultimately, the question is not simply whether the state is weak or the society is strong.
But the more important question is how both can work together to build a more accountable, responsive, and democratic future.
And not just a unity, but collective action, no, Cedric?
So, thank you, attorney. On behalf of our group, we would like to express our sincerest gratitude to our resource person kahit sobrang hirap na hirap kami maghanap. Thank you, attorney Al Conrad B. Espaldon. Kahit mali yung pangalan na sinend sa amin sa email at mali yung nasa script namin. For sharing your time, expertise, and valuable insights with us.
Sobrang dami ko natutunan sa'yo, attorney, no? Dahil dyan,
Tama.
Polsay pa din.
Yes. Polsay, mahusay. Now, thank you as well to everyone who joined and will be watching us in this discussion. Muli, good day, mabuhay, maraming salamat po. At ano pang hinihintay natin? Halina't maki, tunghay, Polsay!